As a woman who has spent a lifetime feeling insecure, ridden with self-doubt, unworthy, not enough, afraid to speak her truth, afraid to be herself, I know what it's like to feel disempowered and numb, depressed, anxious, and disconnected from the inner fire and the inner spark within my soul, which is why I'm really excited to talk about this topic of connecting to your divinity and to your pleasure, to your connection to self as a woman, because it is debilitating being disconnected from your divinity and the source of that which you are. There's so much pain and suffering that comes with that. And right now, the last few years, I've been in a process of self-discovering and coming to these self-realizations of the deep patriarchal stories of disempowerment and programming, conditioning, and beliefs of unworthiness, not enoughness, and overall disempowerment as a woman. And it has affected my life in such ways where I didn't know who I was for most of my life. And I know that's the case for most people because we are raised in this society, we are conditioned in this society to kind of be like an NPC, walking around numb, disconnected from our inner power and our inner spark. Because if you think about it, if everyone here would be in their power, our world would be a very, very different place. Especially if us women were in our power and in our divinity, this world would be a much more loving, pleasurable, harmonious, peaceful space. It would be a true heaven on earth. So if you didn't know this, if you haven't realized this within yourself or all around you already, this world, this foundation of this world is based on power and control and greed and money and selfishness. And it is so far from the true feminine nature and compassionate love and peace that God, love, nature is all about. So if you think about it, of course, the world that we live in right now, the society, the powers that be, don't want us to be in control. They don't want us to be in our power. They don't want women to realize how powerful we actually are. Because we as women have a pussy. And you may feel uncomfortable, triggered, or even disgusted by hearing the word pussy, but the truth is, women are so disconnected from our bodies, our physiology, our nature, because we are disconnected from our pussies, which is the portal of life, the portal of creation. A woman has the capacity and the ability to give birth to a new human, to a new child. And if you think about it, children are hope for the world because they are so pure. They are so just beings of love and purity. And children are the wave of hope in this world to make it a better and more loving place. Yet, women, and men too, are conditioned in this society to be in a state of disempowerment and not feeling. We don't feel, we are numb, we are disconnected from ourselves and our spirits and our feelings. And our power comes from feeling what is deep within us, from feeling what is in our hearts. Because if we avoid feeling what is within us, it becomes repressed and rejected, and it becomes a shadow. So there is a huge power in feeling our feelings, feeling what is deep within us, because we have the power to alchemize that and turn it into our power. They say that your pain is your power, and when you can really feel what is going on within you, you can alchemize that into inner power, deeper remembrance and knowing within your heart and soul. So I'm going to loop back a little bit, but what I was saying is that we are raised by parents and adults that don't feel, they don't live in this state of union with themselves. So they live in these programs of avoidance and unresolved trauma. And when you raise a child with that unresolved trauma, you just live in this state of projection and this embodiment of unhealed wounds, which then passes on to your children through generational trauma. So it is so important for us as not only women, but as human beings to take the self-responsibility and self-reliance to do the healing of our generational trauma, our wounds, our trauma and pain from this lifetime. Because when we do the healing within ourselves, we in turn cause this ripple effect that spreads throughout the world. Because when we do the healing within ourselves, we make an impact on everybody that we touch and we meet. So the number one, probably most important thing in this journey of reclaiming your power as a woman, reclaiming your divinity, reclaiming your inner power, inner spark, magnetism, and radiance is to take the self-responsibility and reliance for the baggage that you have within yourself from this lifetime, from your parents, from your grandparents, from your ancestral lineage. Guys, it goes so deep. So I would say this is the number one step, and that is the number one step that I took in my journey of healing, spiritual expansion, self-development, and really coming back into my divinity. And you may be asking, why is it so important for me to be in my radiance and my divinity? And it may seem obvious, but I can tell you from personal experience that I know what it's like to live a life of numbness, anxiety, depression, feeling like a worthless human being. I'll just tell the truth, because that is how I felt, like literally the lowest self-worth, no confidence. I just wanted to hide in a hole. I felt invisible to the world. I felt like nobody saw me, and life felt empty and numb and so purposeless, and it was so awful and painful. And it got to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't live in that state of numbness. So I'm just gonna share this story because this is my journey, and I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just sharing my experience. But it got to a point in my life where I felt so numb and disconnected from myself that I knew I needed to make a change. And what was in my reality at the time, back in like 2020, was ayahuasca. My brother was dealing with a drug addiction, and my other brother sent him to someone that they trust who facilitates ayahuasca ceremonies with shamans from Colombia. So I felt very inspired by this because I actually met the woman who facilitated this ceremony for my brother, and I felt such a deep, strong soul connection, and I felt seen by her. And I think she's one of the first people in my life that really saw me, especially when I was in this state of numbness and disconnection and despair within myself. So my cry for help was sitting with ayahuasca, and let me tell you guys, it absolutely changed my life. I was 20 years old at the time, or 21, I believe, and it just shifted everything for me. It connected me to the love within myself, the inner child within me. It showed me so much, and this is a whole separate video, but essentially I felt my connection to God, source, divinity, truly on a subjective feeling level that I've never felt before. And from this moment on, I devoted to myself, to God, that I would do everything in my power to be of service to women and people who feel disconnected from themselves, so that they can come home to the remembrance within themselves that they are infinite unconditional love. They are worthy and whole and inherently enough just as they are. So really feeling this divinity for the first time, I realized that it is everything to me. Living in connection to God, source, love, whatever you want to call it, is the number one priority in my life, because God saved me in that moment. I was shown on a feeling subjective level that I am love, and that I don't have to suffer anymore, and that I have to take the self-responsibility into my hands to heal these wounds that were really blocking me from connecting to the source of all that is, and that I am it, and that it is all around me, and I just have to tap into that magic. So that was my moment, my turning point moment, where I went from complete numbness and depression and absolute despair, suicidal thoughts, to having this absolutely life-changing transcendental moment and connection to God that I've never felt before. And let me tell you, I felt very triggered by the word God before because of religious trauma and growing up in the Catholic Church, but I reestablished my relationship with God, simple and short, and that is what saved me. But to keep going on with this radiance and connection to your divinity as a woman, something that has been so suppressed and disgusted to be talked about is your connection to your pussy, like I said. And this portal of life, this portal of creation, is also your place of pleasure. And women are so disconnected from this. Guys, I just read this book called Pussy by Regina Thomashower. I think that's how you say her name. I don't really know. But it absolutely revolutionized my life, because it just goes so deep into the patriarchal stories and programming and conditioning within our society, and that is so deep within us women especially, and it's debilitating. These stories are debilitating. This book talks about how your pleasure is your access to your radiance and your divinity, and the reason why we have become so numb as women is because we're disconnected from our pussies. And let me tell you, after reading this book, after doing some of the practices and really sitting with the information that was in this book, my life has begun to change. I have been starting to slowly integrate and find my inner radiance again. Let me just tell you right now, also, I am on the first day of my bleed. And the first day of my bleed is always historically a mess. Last cycle, actually, I was vomiting and I had diarrhea, TMI, it's okay. This is the truth of what was happening. And I had the worst cramps that I have ever had in my life. It was the worst, most pain and suffering experience of my life. And I told myself that this bleed on the first day, that I would do everything to take care of myself. I would rest, I would do a self-care day, I would opt out of work because I have the freedom and sovereignty to do so with what I'm doing in content creation right now. But let me just tell you, I was not planning to wear what I'm wearing right now, and let me just show you. I decided to show up as the goddess and embody the goddess archetype because she is within us all. And I also did a little bit of lip liner and lip gloss and some mascara, which, wow, I never would have done this on my bleed, but let me tell you, it's been a game changer, because even though I'm feeling like shit, I'm showing up for myself. I'm showing up for my radiance so that I can feel good, even if I'm not feeling good. And before I did this whole little makeover and putting on beautiful clothes, I was not going to record this video because I felt crappy. But yeah, it just shifted my whole entire radiance, and I feel like I'm being in service to self-love and my pussy, because I'm connecting to my goddess. I'm connecting to my pleasure, to my sensuality, to my beauty. And we all have that. And the thing is, in the past, I didn't believe that I was beautiful. I thought I was fucking hideous. I thought I was ugly, and that is what made me feel like I have to hide from the world. I don't want to show up. I don't want to even exist because it's painful and it's awful and I hate myself. That was my mindset before. And I'm getting really passionate talking about this right now because things are starting to turn around for me, because I'm taking the responsibility to shift my life and step into my power and reconnect to my pussy and my radiance. Because before, the word pussy triggered me, literally 2 weeks ago saying it, I couldn't say it because I thought it was so shameful and I felt disgusting for doing it. But they say that the things that we avoid, the things that we trigger, that's what we need to look at. And I wasn't looking at my pussy at all. In my relationship, and I know in so many relationships with women, we rely on our partners to give us pleasure. But more times than not, we don't even take the time to explore pleasure by ourselves. And then we feel dissatisfied in our relationships, sexually, sensually, in intimacy, because our partners don't know how to give us pleasure, because we don't even know how to give ourselves pleasure. And that's a crazy thing, right? Because when we connect to our pussy, when we connect to our pleasure, and we are in our radiance, we become so magnetic, and we also know how to give ourselves pleasure and teach our partners how to give us pleasure in the way that feels best for us. And that is such a big gap, I feel, in relationships. That is so big. And if women can just realize that their own pleasure is their radiance and their magnetism, and that comes first, everything in their life will change. And I speak this as a living testament of this because I've been going through this journey and transformation myself. So as a woman, reconnecting to your divinity and your magnetism and your radiance begins in your pussy. It begins by sitting with that word, really feeling into what stories you have about your pussy, whether it be shame, guilt, disgust, embarrassment, religious programming. I want you to just reflect on whatever it is that made you feel so resistant and made you reject it, made it reject your pleasure. Because again, when we are disconnected from our pleasure, we are disconnected from ourself, our divinity, our creative life force, my sisters, my friends, everybody who's listening to this. I just want to say this out loud and really project it out into the world. I'm sitting right now in my brother's girlfriend's, MJ, her apartment, and there's just so much density all around. I don't know if you saw through the window, but I'm in the middle of a city right now, and I'm just bring this word out. Women, just know this, because when we take back our inherent power and we realize our divinity, which is this ember within us, it never dies, it's always there, we will freaking change our lives and in turn change the world. Women need women in their lives to reflect back and mirror how fucking powerful and amazing and beautiful that they are. And without having a tribe of women or support or a community of women to be this support for you, it's very hard to get lost. And, just traveling as much as I do right now, and we're in the process of looking for home and finding a ground, it's been very difficult because, there's not a solid group of community of women that I'm with all the time. So I've been going through that myself recently, where there's been this loneliness, and especially if I'm in my luteal phase as a woman, I'm feeling lower and I have a hard time seeing myself. So in those cases, it's really important to call up a girlfriend and just ask for words of affirmation and a reflection of love and even words of validation, because, sometimes we need that. We need that pure mirror and reflection to see ourselves. One more thing, sisters. I just wanted to stress the importance of connecting to your menstrual cycle as a woman. I cannot stress this enough, because I've been so disconnected from my cycle for most of my life until the last year. And when I learned about connecting to my cycle, I had an emotional breakdown, because I didn't even know that I was so disconnected from my nature and my divinity as a woman. I was desensitized. And we women are so mirrored to nature. We are nature because, nature has 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall. And women also have these seasons within us. Our menstruation, our bleed time is our winter. Our springtime is our follicular phase. Ooh, my camera's heating up. Our spring is our follicular phase, which is when our body starts to, come back into energy. Our summertime is our ovulation phase, when we are the most energized, we have the most energy, and in creation, we're feeling sexy, our sex drive is highest. And then we have our luteal phase, which is our fall time. And this is when our hormones start to drop and we start to just feel more fall, cozy. So, just connecting to these cycles, connecting to your own cycle and living cyclically by these cycles is such a game changer and a life-changing practice that has changed my life and the lives of so many women that I know. So reconnecting to your radiance as a woman also has to do with connecting to your cycle. Guys, I know that this video might have been a lot and all over the place. I had a lot that was on my heart, and I pretty much just spoke from my heart this video, which I love doing a lot, but you know, sometimes it's nice to have a little bit more structure. So yeah, I hope you found a lot of value in this, and I just want to share a few ways that you can reconnect to your divinity as a woman right now. Start by really feeling into your highest self. What does she look like? What does she wear? Who is she surrounded by? Where does she live? What qualities does she embody? When you get clear on this, you can start making a conscious choice to start shifting into these things. Even though you might not be where you want to be in your life right now, you can start to embody and carry these traits within yourself. This is something that I've been practicing. I mean, even right now, just dressing up and making myself feel beautiful during my first day of my bleed has been something my higher self would do, you know, and that felt really empowering. Number 2, create a relationship with your pussy. And you can start this by just journaling about the stories you have and the fears and the judgments and the perceptions you have about your pussy. Start to uncover this trigger. You can even start to, start giving yourself pleasure and start exploring down there, because guys, it hurts my heart to know that I've been so suppressed from this for my whole life, and now that I am connecting to my pleasure, I cannot keep this a secret, and every woman should know this. But yeah, start looking at yourself. Start creating a relationship. It's your body, is your portal of life. If you want to have kids one day, that is where your child will come out of. It is such a sacred, beautiful thing, and it blows my mind that we've been told and programmed otherwise. Number 3, prioritize self-love. Do something for yourself that makes you feel good. Get a massage, take yourself out for lunch, get a pedicure or manicure if you're into that. Go to the gym, that might make you feel super good. You might not want to, but do it for love for yourself, because you'll feel good and just feel amazing afterwards. And number 4, last thing that I'll give you for connecting to your divinity and your radiance is mirror work. Mirror work has been such a powerful practice in seeing myself and remembering myself and seeing myself as if I would see my best friend. Because how often do you go into the mirror and just look at yourself in the eyes with a soft gaze to allow yourself to unravel and sink into vulnerability? I really encourage you to do this practice and all of the other practices that I listed. But yeah, guys, your divinity and your radiance, once you feel that in your life, it becomes the most important thing, because when we're feeling numb and disconnected and desensitized from pleasure, joy, our pussy, and our divinity, we lose purpose. We start to become numb. So I really hope that you guys found value in this video. I hope that this gave you inspiration and it gave you something to carry with you throughout your day, throughout your week, throughout your life. And the most important thing for me is to be able to drop seeds that will be watered and expanded within you over time. This journey isn't something that just happens overnight or in a week. It's something that is a seed, and it grows, and eventually it grows into a beautiful flower. So my prayer for you is that you water these seeds, is that you sit with it and allow it to marinate, even if you're feeling uncomfortable or triggered. And I'm sending you all my love. I love you guys so much. Please like this video, leave a comment if you resonated or if you have anything to say, and please subscribe. It would help me out so much, and it really lets me know that you guys are taking value from this content, that you're enjoying it, and it inspires me to show up more every single week and share my stories, my experience, my wisdoms, and the things that I've been learning in this life. So I love you guys. I hope you have the most beautiful day, and my prayer for you is that you find peace and love and remember your divinity within. I love you.